Pandemic scams and how to protect yourself. So one thing that I did want to share is John Marshall has a fair housing center, and under one of our grants, there's a particular focus on seniors, which is why I'm able to do these presentations. Um, since we last met, John Marshall and UIC merged, and UIC now has a law school. So we are officially UIC School of Law. The John Marshall has been dropped. So I thought that I would share that little tidbit of information. So that makes UIC School of Law the only public law school in the city of Chicago, which is pretty cool. Okay, so back to the topic. Our learning goals for today. One, we want to discuss pandemic scams. So I'm going to give you kind of a list of like all of the ones that we've been seeing. And then we're going to do, if you all, those of you who were here before, I did some what would you do scenarios. So we're going to go through a few scenarios. And then we're going to bring it back to how to protect yourself and have a larger discussion around that. And lastly, we're going to talk about resources that are available. Okay. All right, so let's jump right into pandemic scams. Phishing and delivery, that should be delivery of malware. So phishing is basically what it sounds like, trying to get information from you through different ways. Most often we see emails, text messages, sometimes it's through a letter or something like that, but different messages that ask you for particular information. And we'll get into some of the details of that, but that's basically what phishing is. And malware is when you have certain information, like if you click on a particular link, that link will enable whoever is sending the email to get some of your private information. So that is one of the scams that we've seen as it relates to COVID. Questions about, oh, you know, if you'd like to purchase a kit, right? A vaccine, a kit to test at home or things of that nature, then click on this link, right? And this was not requested by you. You didn't ask for this information. It has come to you in a particular way. Some of the other things are stimulus, economic relief, government payments. So you'll get this stimulus check, but first we need certain information from you, or you know, from the government. You'll get particular relief, but we need this information from you. Again, all of this comes via email, via call, via a letter. Not often, you know, coming to your door anymore, but that can happen too. So that's what I always remind folks when I do this presentation, like if you didn't ask for it, that's a red flag. If you didn't seek out this information, that's a red flag. Or payments for the government. You have to, payments from the government. In order to receive certain payments from the government, you have to provide particular information. Most of the time it's social security number, but it could be like your bank information. We want to transfer this, and you know, the money to your bank, and they're soliciting that information. Okay. We've also seen an increase in charity, requests for charity donations. So fraudsters seek donations for illegitimate organizations that don't exist, and so on. Preying on the fact that we are all, you know, at this point really concerned about, should be really concerned about each other, and you know what we are all experiencing. So looking to get that information, and you know, take advantage of your emotions. So we'll talk, you know, again later about like how do you respond to these things. So then provider scams. This is scammers that impersonate doctors and hospital staff, and claim to have treated somebody that you know, and say, you know, this is a breakthrough treatment. If you pay me a certain amount, I can get you this treatment, or we can, do this. And I will say some of this may seem a little like, I would never fall for that. I would, but it happens all the time. The predators are really creative, right? And they try to, tug at your heartstrings, and they're as strategic about, figuring out ways to approach you and get you to buy into these scams as, we are in trying to, figure out how to address it with you so that, so, I always remind folks that you can be a target. That's why this conversation is so important, because it's hard to outthink a predator, a person that's trying to take advantage of you. So we want you to be aware and be on notice, not necessarily on guard, but on notice, so that you know how to prepare, how to respond. And you are able to identify, oh, wait, this is a scam. I'm not going to give you my information, or I'm not going to do this or that. The other thing is bank FIDC scams where, again, impersonation. Scammers impersonate the FDIC or bank employees and falsely claim that banks are limiting access to deposits, or that there are security issues with bank deposits. So they need to facilitate helping you to make your deposits and so on with a particular bank. There's also investment type of scams. Scammers claim that products or services of publicly traded companies can prevent, detect, or cure COVID-19. So you need to be aware of that. Now that we have a vaccine, there's all kinds of other things that are that are happening. So, some people are setting up places to go and get the vaccine, and, asking you to pay all kinds of money in order to get the vaccine, when we all know that it's free. Like you can go and sign up with your provider or whoever to, get the vaccine. And there are organizations that, are kind of having pop-up places, but even with a pop-up place, they're not asking you for money, right? And one thing that I did learn, this was actually from my mother-in-law, her provider charged her something nominal. I think it was like $15 when she went to get the vaccine. And she called them and said, well, what is this charge for? And they said, oh, it's for just an operational fee or something like that. And she said, I'm not supposed to be charged. We're not supposed to be charged for getting the vaccine. So check your medical payment information, see if that is the case. And they took it off. But even even the people that you trust, right, are sometimes trying to take advantage of the situation. And, there are probably plenty of people that let it slide because it was $15 or $30 and said, oh, well, I'm going to keep it moving. But just be aware of that. And you should not be charged. No one that should be being charged for the vaccine, to get the vaccine. Vaccination cards are now kind of are the next level of things. So if you have if you've lost a vaccination card, there are folks that are trying to scam you to, make you a new one, or, pay, again, you have to pay to get a new vaccination card. For those that don't have a vaccination card and, haven't taken the vaccine, there are scammers that are making false cards and, stuff like that. So it may not apply to you necessarily, but for those that, those are, that's another level of what we're seeing as well. And I don't see any questions right now. So, okay, I'm going to keep moving. Calls. There are specific calls from Medicare. So, because so many people have Medicare, scammers are trying to figure out how to take advantage of that. So, Medicare, typically there is a call asking for your Medicare number. Again, if you are not soliciting or you are not, asking for a particular information, no one should be calling you to get that information. If Medicare calls you, which is not often, it's hard to get them, right? So if they call you, they will have your information. They will have your number already. It's not something that you have to, oh, please, there's an issue on with your Medicare. Please provide your number. That does not happen. Okay. The same thing with Social Security. Callers are asking for your Social Security number. And I must say, some of these things are not new. They were happening before COVID. It's just that COVID is now the angle, the pandemic is now the angle to then target you, again, because of the vulnerability, the fragility. A lot of people are just tired, exhausted of everything that, we're experiencing. And that makes you more vulnerable. So, you also want to have that in mind, because these things are heightened, even though they're kind of the same, same nature of things that you've seen before. So calls from Medicare, calls related from Social Security office, and I put that, in air quotes, because it's obviously not them asking for your Social Security number. Emails from Medicare, emails from asking for your Social Security number, your Medicare number. So we see that often as well. Okay, so let's do a couple of scenarios before we get into, I just want to know what you know, before we get into how you need to respond. So you receive a letter about an at-home virus test kit. You have to provide bank account information to pay for the kit. So you have to put your bank information in the email, in the fill out portion of the letter and send it back. What would you do? Anyone can respond.
Okay. I probably dumped the letter.
Yeah.
No, I didn't get a test. I asked for the test. Or if I do, I would call my provider and see if they sent it. But that's out of
Right. Okay. So yeah, absolutely. You would inquire to find out. Well, one, you never give out information to your bank account, Social Security number, any of that private information in response to a letter, in response to an email, in response to, that's not something that you do. And I do like, I think, is it Audrey, Miss Audrey?
Yeah.
Okay. I do like the idea of verifying, getting more information. We talk about that often, is do some research. Don't just, oh my gosh, I really want to do this home test. Let me fill out my information and send it back. Like it's on you to do some investigation, okay, before you make any moves. Okay, next scenario. A government representative gives you a call warning you that Social Security payments are being cut because of the pandemic. And they need your Social Security number to find out if you are on the list. Oh my gosh, my Social Security payments might be cut. What should I do? What would I do?
Nothing. Hang up.
Hang up. Good. Hang
They
up.
already know Social Security will not call you. You have to call in.
Right.
To get.
Hang up. Yes, I that is the starting point. Hang up. Like, a government representative is not just randomly calling you, right, about your Social Security benefits. That's not how it works. Although some people certainly, one thing that predators take advantage of is the urgency, and financial distress, right? So the idea of, oh, I might get I might not be getting my Social Security, or it might be cut, or something like that. If you're not paying attention, if you're not aware, that could be a scenario that would cause you to panic and respond by providing your social security number. So again, it seems like, what? I would never do that, right? But again, depending on the way that it's presented to you, it may be something that you think about. You don't automatically hang up. You might say, well, who's, what agency are you calling from? And, things of that nature. So hang up. I absolutely agree with that. And no matter what, even if you think, man, this might be legit, don't give your social security number. Call Social Security and say, hey, this is what's going on. And I say that because there's so many scams all over the place, right? And it's important to report, to say, hey, I've had this situation. I'm just letting you all know that this is what's going on, because that is one way that they're able to track. And if you go to Social Security website, if you go to the IRS website, there are various websites that you can go to, and they will show what are the scams that are happening right now as it relates to their agency. So you can go there and kind of cross verify, or you can call them and let them know, this is what happened to me. I didn't fall for it, but just want you to be on notice that, this is what scammers are trying to do. Okay.
In this light, can you talk about to whom and when to report these phone numbers or hard copies scammers?
Yeah, I think that it's obviously up to you and how much time that you have. But when you come across one, or particularly if they're like calling you repetitively, repeatedly, then you may want to report them. If it's kind of a one-off situation, then maybe not. But it's up to you. You can report every situation that occurs. If it's bothersome to you, and it also depends on what happens. Like, I received a call from someone impersonating the police that were telling me that I committed a fraud, and they were trying to get information from me. And I'm like, okay, one, I know this, but you got the wrong person today. But on top of that, I'm just like, let me kind of hear this out. And the person was aggressive on the phone, and was, the police is going to come to your house and all of, things of that nature. So to me, that was egregious. That was beyond, can I get your information? Will you? And I say no. But kind of the threat of something happening and so on. So that is something that I reported. So that is, to me, also a consideration is kind of the egregiousness of what happened, right? So I would definitely report if there's any threats of harm, if there's any, if the person is really aggressive, those types of things I would definitely report. But again, it's totally up to you, kind of, if you want to take kind of the smaller things, and report everything. If you have time like that, then that's fine. But I definitely would say things that are egregious and things that are repetitive, to report that. Did that answer your question, Terry?
Sure.
Okay.
Also, I've had a situation where, those caller IDs, they'll put something up there to make it seem like it's coming from like your hospital or Social Security.
Or
it's actually some of my robocalls,
yeah.
And they're sneaky like that too.
They are very sneaky, and some of the robocalls are aggressive too. If you don't do this, then such and such will happen. So you kind of, I think that, again, feeling vulnerable, feeling, just overwhelmed by everything that's happening. That is how these predators are able to kind of seep into, traditionally rational people who are, wouldn't go for this. Okay, so next scenario. what would you do? The Helping Hands Foundation comes to your front door and asks you to donate to the COVID-19 fund for children that are suffering from the virus. What would you do? Children are now the fastest rising group of folks to get COVID. And that's super, super sad.
Scary.
So what would you do?
Well, I wouldn't contribute. I'd check them out.
Okay.
Take
So-
a card or a name and address and number, and then check it out.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
I would say that I don't contribute to door-to-door solicitations.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. All right. All of that is good. All of that is good. The first one, investigate. Give me some information so that I can look you up. And find out if you are a reputable, legit organization. If I can, in order for me to consider contributing. And then also, you came to my door. Like I didn't ask, I didn't ask to donate to your organization. So I'm not giving anything to your organization at this point. So both of those are good responses to the situation. If you consider giving, you definitely should investigate. You aren't giving money out, you aren't giving bank information, you aren't giving checks, like none of that should be happening via someone coming to your door or email or text or or a letter, right? So all of that, none of that changes, right? You just don't do it. But if you're are interested and you're like, wow, this is a great organization, I didn't even know that it existed, because there are quite a few organizations out there. Then you go back and you do some investigation. Let me see, let me find your information online. Let me see, how long you've been around. Did you just spring up in the last 2 weeks, right? What are you doing with the funds? All of the information that you can seek out there if you are so, if you're interested. I always say, there are organizations that have been around for a very long time. Those are the ones that have, designated funds to contribute to. And I would focus on those rather than kind of the fly-by-night organizations. That's just a rule of thumb that I would put out there. Okay, well, you guys are all with it. Gave great responses, great answers. But I also, want you to share this information, right? So it's not just for you. Share it with your friends, share it with your families, because everyone, doesn't have the same background, doesn't have the same way of looking at these things. So it's really important to not only keep it for yourself, but share it with other people and say, look, I went to this presentation today, and these are things that I learned that you need to be aware of. Okay, so we're not done. Now we're going to talk about what to do, and we've already started that conversation. Is there a question? Oh, I have one more. Yay. Okay. You receive an email that your favorite cousin, Louise, has COVID-19 and mounting medical bills. She needs your help. The email asks that you send a check to the below address. What would you do?
Call my cousin.
Call your cousin. It's your favorite cousin, Louise.
Confirm it.
You haven't heard from Louise in a while, but
He wouldn't be emailing me.
Anyone else? Okay.
I would just share, am I still muted?
No, we can hear you, Terry.
I would share that about 2 years ago, if not shorter than that, 3 of my friends from back in the day all received emails that I was desperate for money to give to my sick sister. One actually went in and got the gift cards. And then one went to the store where she was supposed to go, and the person at the counter said, "This is a scam." And she said, "Oh no, I know him. He goes to church all the time. He wouldn't do this." So I tell you, somebody mentioned also, they really try to trick you. And so these things really do happen.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
one lady actually bought 3 cards and sent them.
Oh,
So it's tragic.
that's like a scam that they had for your cousin is in jail and he needs
Yeah,
bond money.
yeah.
Yeah, I know some people who got, in fact, I sort of got pulled into a hack from a friend who lived out in Oak Park. And I got this message asking if I had a credit card account. And I think I might have answered yes. I don't know. But some of her friends in the same group answered and then were asked for money, and they actually came through with it, even though she lived practically in their neighborhood. They could have just called her or gone to her house. But anyway,
Yeah.
they really wanted to help this close friend.
So, and I think that's, I think it's a wonderful thing that people want to be helpful. At the same time, I think you need to check and verify to make sure that your funds or whatever you're doing to help is going to the right place. With the understanding that, again, you did not seek this out. You didn't go find your friend or your neighbor or whoever it was to see how they were doing and then, decided to contribute or something like that. This came to you. So I think it's really important to just have in mind, okay, I want, if you desire to help, let me verify, let me confirm before. So just kind of slow it down. The panic, the immediate response is what causes the problem, right? So you have to, backtrack a little bit and say, okay, wait, this is my cousin Louise. I don't know why cousin Louise wouldn't call me if she needed something. Let me reach out to cousin Louise and find out what's going on and how I can help, right? The same thing with the friend, the close friends or friends, from growing up. I haven't heard from them in a while. We haven't had any conversations. This is kind of out of the blue. Let me reach out and see, what's happening and what's going on. The neighbor, it, really doesn't matter who it is, right? Before you give money, put your credit account information down or any of that. You want to check and verify. And I'm glad you all shared those real examples because it just is a reminder that this happens. This happens to sophisticated people who are like, okay, I know a lot about what's going on. I would never be taken advantage of, right? I'm sure the neighbors, you would never you think, come on, are you kidding me? You really put down your information like that? But again, it happens. People want to be helpful and they lose sight of some of the things that they should do beforehand to before they offer that help. All right, thank you guys for sharing your real life situations. Okay, so let's talk about, and this is kind of right on time. We're going to go for about 10 more minutes in terms of this section, and then we'll have about 10 minutes for questions or conversation discussion. Okay, we talked earlier, watch out for phishing scams. So, click on this link. Oh, send me, certain information. So it's phishing when literally it's spelled PH, but it is phishing. Let me see what I can get from you, right? In order to then advance this, whatever the scam is that I'm trying to do. Ignore offers for a COVID-19 vaccine, cure, or treatment. I mean, we're now at the point where there is legitimate vaccine, but there is no cure. And, the vaccines should be coming through your provider, not from any outside person. And if you do get certain information that seems of interest, you should follow up with your provider to confirm and say, do you offer this? Oh, okay. Or have you heard of this? So that you can get their feedback, because they should be a trusted resource. Rely on official information, official sources for the most updated information on COVID-19. The CDC, here, the state of Illinois has particular information if we're looking for updates. The city of Chicago, like legitimate official sources. Part of the trouble with all of this is there's just so much information and so much misinformation, and it's coming from everywhere and no one's verifying, right? To see, okay, and and concentrated on who are the official sources. So have that in mind when you're looking to verify, you're getting information, that it is an official source. Remember, the safest place for your money is in the bank. We've also, just the gravity of the pandemic, people have been taking money out the bank. So have that in mind. That is the safest place, and certainly not providing your bank information when it's requested by some, through these different types of scams. Do research before making a donation. So if the person comes to your door, if they send a beautiful letter or a heart-wrenching letter with a picture of a child, whatever it is, do your research before making a particular donation. And even if that's a donation to a friend who needs help, a neighbor that needs help, whoever, your cousin Louise, whoever it is. All right. Keep your computers and mobile devices up to date. One of the ways that the phishing scams work and malware is because it's online. So once you kind of engage, right, then that's the opportunity to attack. So you want to keep your computers and mobile devices up to date, meaning if there's a download, something that you need to update, make sure that you do that, because within those programs is responses to different types of digital attacks. So you want to, and I'm bad at that. Like, I feel like every time I do an update on my phone, like something gets thrown off. So I'm like, I'm not going to do the update. And then my partner reminds me, no, make sure you do the update, because you're trying to protect your phone. You're trying to protect your computer. So you can reset some of the other things, but you want to have full protection. Recognize and avoid bogus website links. So you can't click on everything, right? So if it seems really unfamiliar to you, be careful about clicking on a particular link. Take the information from the link and go to the site and see what you can find about it. Don't click, right? So have that in mind as well. Change your security settings to enable multi-factor authentication for accounts that support it. And a lot of this is online. It's very aggravating, but like as an institution, we have a 2-factor authentication, like every time you sign onto your email or whatever it is. But again, it's to protect your system, to protect your information. So you may often it's in, oh, we're going to send you a text message or something with a code for you to put the code in and then sign onto your accounts. Before you make any investments, remember the high potential for fraud now. So, I'm kind of the opinion, don't do nothing new, right? Make sure it's well researched and so on. because again, there's a lot of different ways in which to try to get your money and get it out there. And then investments is just one example of that. So just kind of have that in mind. One way that you can help, and we talked about this before, is reporting scams, reporting coronavirus scams when they come to you, because they always come to you. You don't go to them. So, as you see something, as you hear something, even if you aren't necessarily reporting it to the particular agency, share it with family and friends. Make sure you're having these conversations about what's happening, and what you're experiencing.
I had for websites, really have to watch that out, because I had two real bad situations, but I wasn't gonna mess with it. But they had, you remember, from Costco, and the word was even spelled wrong, Costco.com. Like, they don't even know how to spell Costco. And they had one from Chase, a bank there, and they kept sending me stuff talking about you can't log on because of blah blah blah. And I didn't see the HTTPS, that you should see before. I thought, oh, these are sneaky people.
Very sneaky.
And
And
come to my site and we'll log on and we'll verify. I said, ooh.
yeah, and you mentioned something like how you have to pay attention. You looked at the web address to say, wait, it doesn't have what it should have there. So all of those details are, really important, but that is you stepping back from kind of whatever the concern is, or what it's telling you should do, to think about some of those things. And that's part of the investigation process. Okay, so now we are at questions, which is right on time. Questions, comments, other experiences that you've had?
Danielle, this is Barbara. What I've noticed over the last, I'd say maybe 6 months, is the number of scam texts I'm receiving.
Yes.
And I mean, I have one from AT&T saying I've won something. I have a United States Postal Service. I'm a United States Postal Service lottery winner. AT&T is giving me $200 just for doing business. I mean, they're obviously fake, but I got like 4 of these in 1 week.
Yeah.
It's so annoying.
So texting is the new rage, right? So
Right.
it's a new opportunity. We can now text you because more people have smartphones. It's quicker access. Like, you have to go into your computer and go into your email. A letter has to come in the mail. Most folks aren't doing door to door anymore. So texting is quick, it's easy, and it's effective, right? So that's why you're seeing more. When I've done this presentation over the years at different points. Text messaging was not even I never mixed, it wasn't in the conversation because it wasn't happening. Now it definitely is one of the ways in which scammers are, reaching out to you.
They even have ways you can donate money on your texting.
Yeah.
Donate, text such and such amount to this number.
Right. Or links in
Or
the
link.
Once you click the link, then you can go and do that. So scammers are always trying to figure out a way, right? So we have to be as proactive in being aware and protecting ourselves, because I'm not a scary person, or I'm not like, oh my gosh, something's not gonna happen. But I do think that you just have to be aware and be unnoticed, so that you can protect yourself and protect your families. All right. Any other questions, comments? Did I hear? I can vaguely hear someone.
Are there other questions for Danielle?
Well, it's just hard to believe that people actually give money to these people. I mean, I may pass up some good things because I just plain don't do it, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a good rule of thumb. Don't do it.
Yeah, just
But
don't do it.
And sometimes it's, it's bank information, it's social security number, it's,
Yeah, no,
Medicare information, stuff like that. And again, people want to help,
Yep.
or people like the opportunity to maybe
Donate to
get
the
something.
hurricane just recently, donate this money will go directly to the state that had the hurricane or the tornado or whatever.
Yeah.
Big time. Yeah.
I think it's a great rule of thumb. I would say, if
Do it.
everyone would do that, the scammers' jobs would be a lot harder. But the main thing is investigate, and then you don't give any of your information out, period. That is what is a sure approach to these situations.
Do you have anything to say about Facebook?
Well, Facebook is social media, and there's a lot of a great question. Let me say that. That's why I chuckle. There's across social media, there's a whole range of access, right? So you sign onto Facebook, then you get this pop-up, you sign onto your email, then you get, so I just would say, I think the same things apply, Facebook donate, people have different donate to this for my birthday and do that. And, so I think you have to be just as cautious as you ordinarily would be. Same thing with clicking on links on Facebook. Same types of posts. Oh, I'm ill and suffering. Please contribute to my GoFundMe, like all of those types of scenarios are all over social media. So, you still have to do the same rules apply. Yes, Susan.
Quite apart from the charitable donations that they're always soliciting, there recently has been a plethora of political donations. Maybe you could speak a little bit to that. I mean, we all have our causes, and everybody wants us to support this, that, and the other thing.
Sure.
And a lot of them don't feel very reliable. I mean, I don't support anything unless I personally know. For example, the California election.
Mhm.
I would not respond to any, although I have opinions about that. I would not respond to any of the online requests that I've been getting.
Okay, and that's good. Okay, so we're all getting, inundated with all of the text messages. That's where most of the political, you get it via email too, but most of the political stuff is via text message. I think that you have to be clear about the organization that you are, like, I get them from the DNC and I'm like, look, I'm over it. Like, but I think that you just have to make sure that it's a reputable organization. And then you decide how you want to contribute. Like, just because you receive a text message and it says click here to donate doesn't mean that you have to click there to donate. You can decide, I would prefer to send a check in the mail, or I prefer to call the organization, because that's you reaching out to them, and make a donation over the phone, right? So I think you can decide if you want to contribute, how you want to contribute to these different organizations. And I would caution you about kind of having your information out there. So the thing about donating online, the thing about donating via text, it's easy, right? Just a couple clicks and that. But the more organizations that have your information, right, the more chance for something to happen in their network to be compromised and your information is out there, right? So I would limit the text message online donating to organizations. Phone calls still work, checks still work, um, thing, things like that. So not saying don't do it because we all do it, but I would certainly want to make sure that it's reputable organization. Secondly, that I'm not doing it often and that I'm not spreading my information over, a whole bunch of organizations. Does that answer your question, Susan?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I have a comment
Yes.
too, really. When you order online, like Amazon, they will keep your credit card information up there. So when you order again, they say, oh, you're going to use your same one. The thing what I would do is after I place my order, I go back up there and erase the information because they keep your stuff. It's a lot of companies that do that.
Yeah.
So when you have somebody else may even go in, say order in and use your name and stuff like that, and they automatically charge it to that credit card that they're holding on to. And I'm like, oh, I don't do that. I got caught like that. And I said, wait a minute, I want my information. I don't want it to be there. So I had to call him and he's, oh, this is what you do after you place the order. Go back in there and erase the stuff. And I'm like, wow, that's so sneaky.
Well, it's the convenience. We all, like to shop and like to be able to have your information there so you don't have to pull your card out. When you do those things, it's a sacrifice, right? So you're sacrificing your information being out there for the convenience, right? Oh, I can do this quicker. I can do this faster, just a couple clicks. So I think you just have to kind of be mindful of, the type of trade-off, right? That you're making, the sacrifice that you're making for this type of convenience. Because scammers know, oh yeah, well, all of this information. And that's why you get those emails when, Amazon, Target, places like that, when their networks are compromised, you get an email saying, hey, your information may have been put out there, or may have been part of this, and we just nothing should come of it, and these are all the things that we've done, but there's the possibility. So I think with that, you just have to stay vigilant on these accounts that you use. You need to go back and look at them and see what's going on. When you have when you check your bank statements, make sure that they're consistent with what you purchased. I got something from PayPal the other day, and I was like, I didn't purchase anything on PayPal, and it was supposed to go to a particular person. So I had to inquire about that and find out what was going on. They're like, well, you received that inadvertently. And then I kept checking my bank account to see, is there something coming out related to this? And it ended up being nothing. But had I not been paying attention, it would have gone through, and it would have been coming out of my bank account, and I would not have known, or not have been paying attention. So
but that's one of the reasons I use PayPal rather than give my credit card to multiple places that I might order.
Sure.
And then every month I check PayPal.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people don't check.
Yeah.
But if you go back and look at the monthly charges to make sure that nothing's going on.
Yeah. And that's a really good point. And that was no knock against PayPal. It wasn't a PayPal issue. Yes, PayPal is a good program application to use. But with all of these things, you have to check. You have to follow up. You can't just press those buttons and keep it moving. You need to be checking your bank account. Was the charge consistent with what I purchased? Is it the same? I have these conversations like, did you buy this? Because this is showing up on my card. What's going on? So with all of these financial transactions that are happening really quickly, you do need to do your due diligence and follow up and just cross and verify and and investigate.
wanted to know, they have this fireman's fund, they say. They call up and say, you want to donate to the firemen's? Is that legal? Is that real? Do they actually call you to donate to the firemen's?
Or the policeman.
Or the
The
police.
policeman too.
Or the
And I
police?
just hang up.
Thank you. Because I've seen guys at firemen and they have their boots, they're outside,
Yeah.
You could drop the money in that, but I've never heard any. Why would
I
you?
think some of the organizations may be legitimate, but I don't know that when they call me. So
Mm.
my rule of thumb is to say
No.
no.
Gotcha.
And if I'm interested in donating to the Fireman's Fund, I will find their information and contribute, right? That's just as easy, right? Maybe a couple more steps, but that's just as easy for me to contribute as, as it is for me to have this conversation over the phone and and it's just so much safer. So, yes, but it is firemen's, it is the police.
Okay. But
you
I
know,
wouldn't do it
there
over the phone. No.
yeah, I
And
just,
another thing I do, I know this might be.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but you don't know who's calling, right?
Exactly.
Just because they say I'm the fireman's fund or I'm this, I'm like, you can be anybody.
Exactly. That's what I'm like. Is that for real? They call you up and say stuff. I never give. It's just, I've
Yeah.
seen them outside with boots. Now I'll give them.
Yeah,
But not over the phone.
yeah, because that is again a verification. Okay, I see you. I'm assuming that you aren't just putting on this fireman's gear to just collect
It's
money.
the money.
Like I feel much more comfortable with that than talking to somebody over the phone and providing my private information, because in order to give to them, you would have to provide private information, right? And you don't want that information to be compromised.
And you know what I do for my credit cards? I notice I'm not a real trusting person. I was a systems analyst for a computer, and we go check out the files in progress and stuff like that. But even on my credit cards, every 2 years, I say my card is stolen or I lost them so they could change my number.
Wow.
So that's what bothered me with Amazon. I said, wait a minute. You can't keep my stuff. That's not so I do it every 2 years just to be sure.
And that's I'm glad you mentioned that, because that is definitely a good strategy, just to keep your information changing and different. So no one can get a hold of it and kind of, do things with it. But passwords. So, a lot of us, everything has a password and we like to keep the same ones. But every 3 months, every 6 months, like whatever you have passwords to, you should be updating them to a new password. And
basically I use Apple Pay because they don't get anything. You know what I mean? They don't get any of your information. If I go to your store and want to buy something and they don't have Apple Pay, I won't even use a credit card.
Okay, yeah. Apple Pay is a pretty good program. But even if it's not paying for stuff, if it's, your online account, your email, all of those things, you should be
changing your password.
3 months or so changing. People have had, that's been my password for, all, I don't want to
Ever.
I know it.
Some people use the same password on different accounts.
Yeah. So you have to mix it up. Again, the scammer, if you're putting your head in the mind, your mind in the head of a scammer, like they're looking for all of these connections, all of these things to be the same, but you throw them off when they're different, right? And when you're updating your systems, when your phone, your computer, when you're updating your password, you just make it that much more difficult for them, because they thrive in us all, keeping the same things all the time. So yeah, you have to get them off their game.
And another thing that you got to really watch your social security number and stuff like that, because it was a long time ago. Somebody got my social security number and stuff and my information, and they were in a process of buying a house.
Wow.
Yeah, and you know what I ended up doing? I put a freeze on all three of the bureaus. So if anybody wants to see, you know, my, they can't see anything unless I put in a number.
Mhm.
Because they give you a number that you use anytime you want somebody to see your information. Because, you know,
Okay.
people get that social security number and have a ball with your information. And you're right.
Yeah, wow.
They have a ball.
So let's see if
Get a new
anybody else
house.
has any questions for, let's see if anybody else has any questions for Danielle. We're past
Oh,
1
we-
o'clock and
okay,
it's about
okay.
time to wrap up.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions? Well, Danielle, this has been great. As again, I want to thank you for joining us today. And you know, please keep us in mind as new information comes to you, and you have information that you think would be useful to our group.
Okay.
But
Thank you. That's a great.
Thank you.
thanks everybody for
Sure.
attending.
You
And
are very welcome. And I will make sure that I send out the PowerPoint presentation.
great.
So that you all have that.
Okay, we
to,
appreciate that.
Follow up and share.
Had a
Okay.
lot of useful information. Thanks a lot,
All
Danielle.
right. Thank
Have
you
a great
all.
day.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
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 Bye.